Okay, we're good, we're live. Okay, so welcome to RockSim Facebook Live number 9 with Tim Van Milligan. Obviously, I'm not Tim Van Milligan. He's not available to be with us today, so I'm filling in. My name is Michelle Mason, and I'm the office manager here at Apogee Components. I'm usually on chat when you guys are watching these, answering questions and things. I'm also the primary tech support person for the customer service calls and emails and chats you guys submit when you're having problems or you have questions about RockSim. So because Tim's not available today, we were going to do things a little differently. Tim did pre-record a video answering some of the questions that have been submitted this week. So we will play that here in a bit. We're having some technical difficulties, so the video is not quite ready to go yet. So what we're going to do first thing is see if anybody has any questions, and I might just answer a couple of general questions that people have, and then hopefully the video that Tim recorded ahead of time will be ready here in another 5 or 6 minutes or so. So Tim's video is about putting fins on rockets that are odd size or oddly placed. So instead of a rocket like this that has a fin that is, in the center of the tube, perpendicular, he uses the Pegasus rocket, which has 2 fins that stick up kind of like antennas off center. And you can't do that with just the regular fin setting in RockSim, but you can do it with pods. So he does that, as well as going over the Lex Jet, which has fins that are underneath. So again, they're not in the center line, they're not directly perpendicular, they're oddly placed. So the video is going to go over that to show you how to do that with pods. The video also answers a question about printing. There's a setting in the new release of RockSim that is causing some confusion when printing. So it's a real quick tip just on how to do that. And then the final thing in the pre-recorded video is a teaser for the RockSim visualizer, which he's been showing every week. So to start, let's see if we have questions here. So Sydney says, I've seen 2-stage rocket RockSim files configured as a single stage. Please explain. I'm not exactly sure. We do have a video on our website about having rockets come down into separate pieces. In terms of having them set as a 2-stage with 2 motors in a single stage, I'm not sure how that happens. We might have to defer that question for Tim to answer next week on that, if that is a thing, because I know RockSim, when you set the number of stages, that's what tells it how many motors there are. So to trick it into putting 2 motors in a single stage, if it's possible, is probably a little tricky. And that's not one I've seen before. We do on our website, if you're talking more about the how to have it come down in 2 pieces, more like dual deployment, but with a single stage, there is a video tutorial that shows you how to do that. It was set up for TARC a number of years ago when TARC had to do that, had the rockets come down. So let me go to screen share. I'm new to this video streaming thing, so give me a second here. So on our website, and this is where all the video tutorials are listed. So if you're ever not sure how to do something, and it's kind of a basic thing, we have a lot of those pre-recorded from even RockSim 9. So you go to the how-to and guides, software, and then RockSim video tutorials. And that covers, the basics if you're just getting started in RockSim, like how do you open a file? How do you run a simulation? And it gets into like the things Tim's going to cover today in the pre-recorded video, the pods. There is a video on making strap-on booster pods, attaching fins to other fins, advanced pod design. Those will cover kind of the same things that Tim's talking about today in the video. And so on here, there is the TARC tutorial number 6 says how to have a rocket come down in 2 pieces using middle separation. I don't think that's what Sydney's asking about, but that was where my mind first went. So if that is what you're looking at, that's there. But otherwise, we will definitely have Tim look at that, look into that 2-stage in a single stage situation and come up with that there. So Brad says, I need motors. So I'm not sure, Brad, if that means you're missing the motors from RockSim, like you installed the software and the motors were missing. There has been a situation where on some Windows users, the motors are not installing. We think we've figured out what's going on, and hopefully in the next update there be a solution. So if they don't install for some reason, you're still able to do it manually from your software. We're working on it. But if you are missing the motor files in RockSim, again, on the website, we actually have a tutorial for that because it's happened to enough people that it's just easier to do. So let me pull the website back up, and under the how-to and guides and software again, we have loading missing motors back into RockSim. So if you're missing your motor files, you can go here, watch the video. Tim walks you through it. This is one way to do it. I can definitely show you another way that's not in this video. Also on this page, there are the engine vendors files. So that's a list of all the motor manufacturers, and RockSim does need that with the motor file. And then also the parts and materials database. So if you're missing your parts and materials, you open RockSim and it says that there is no, can't find the databases or something. This is where you can go to download those. And again, we're working on a fix for that hopefully. But in the meantime, you can download the clean files from our website. And I'll go ahead and show you the like backwards way to do it, the like low tech way, so that this should always work. Because the video talks about motors specifically and it doesn't necessarily apply to these other two. So we'll go ahead and download the files from here. And then I'm going to show you on a Mac how to do this. So on a Windows, it's similar, but the folders are called something different, and it's to get to the files is a little different. The video that Tim shows on that page walks you through how to get to those hidden folders on Windows. So same process, just different navigation. So on a Mac, you can go to Go, hold down your Option key, and you'll see the library pops up here. So click that. And this is a hidden folder, so you can't get there without either showing hidden folders or doing that little trick there. And then you're going to go Application Support, Apogee Components, RockSim _1. You can see we got a lot of RockSims here. And then Data. And this right now is where all your motor and parts files are stored. So if you downloaded those files from the website, and I'm assuming these went into downloads. Yep, you can see, so the RS parts downloaded, that's all of the, there's a body tubes, nose cones, things like that, all these files. And then the engine vendors.dat, and the motor files may not have downloaded, so I may need to grab those again, but it's really simple. Once you have, so you just have the two windows open, once you've navigated to that data folder, which is again going to the library, and then you can see down here, application support, Apogee components, RockSim 1 data. So you're just going to take these parts that are here, you're going to highlight them all, which you can do with Command A, or you can click and drag, and then you'll take them and drag them over here. Normally you wouldn't have all the files here because they're missing, which is the whole reason you're doing this, but you'll just move those over. And then in this case, it's asking me if I want to replace them because I already have them there. So you can click replace, that's fine. And if you want to do them all, apply to all. And on Windows, this is the same thing. You'll navigate to the data folder, and then you'll drag your files over. Same thing with the motors. So this is sort of the low-tech way to do it, and this way should work every single time. Then once you restart RockSim, it will populate that for there. Okay, let's see. Is there a reason to exclude the booster motor in the flight simulation module? So I'm not sure exactly what you're asking about excluding it. When you have a 2-stage rocket, you can fly it with 1 or 2 motors. So let me find a kit that I know is 2-stage. This is not my computer, so I'm looking here to see one that I know is a, let's see if we can find the, I'm sure there's more in here, but rip roar. Let's see if I can find, here we go. This is a 2-stage. So you'll go in, so you can see here, you can fly it with a single motor or 2 motors. So you'll just, your booster is always going to be your lower motor. So if you don't want to fly it as a 2-stage and you just want to fly it as a 1-stage, then all you'll do is load your motor in that upper stage. You'll pick your motor. Your upper stage would have the delay since it's the upper stage, and then launch. So reasons for doing that would just be because you want to fly it. You want to fly it as a single stage. I don't know that there's a other reason to exclude it. In that case, it just depends on how you're flying it. If you want to fly it as a 2-stage, then you'll load both motors. And Tim showed this last week, but you can either individually load the motors, or if they're both the same, you can click load all. Oop, that didn't work. You have to select the one that already has the motor in it. Sorry. So from there, then click load all. And then you can change the delays from this window, because you pretty much always want your booster to be 0. And then launch. That was a different E12 than the Estes one, but yeah. So I'm not sure if that answered your question, Sydney. Hopefully it does. If not, let me know what more specifically you're looking for on that. Okay, so we are still waiting on our pre-recorded video. It's been a day. So other things to do in RockSim. If you want to add parts to RockSim, like I showed you before, but say you, like, somebody has a parts file on their website, a different manufacturer, like before RockSim 10 and RockSim 9, Bluetooth wasn't included, so you could go to the Bluetooth website, download the Bluetooth file, and then import it into RockSim. Then you would go to the website and download it. So let's go get us some files. The Bluetooths are already in RockSim now, so this is different, but there are some manufacturers that are not, and you might be able to download the files from there. I deal a lot with the customer questions about, like, not how to do simulations, but more like I'm having a problem or this isn't in, so this is more of my knowledge base here. So to get to the file, hopefully he hasn't moved it. YouTube. So here we go. Download the latest Bluetooth. We want to download. So you can always do what I showed you before about moving them in to there. The only thing is this will also be a body tube file, so you don't want to overwrite your existing body tube file. So the way to do it in RockSim is just make sure that this didn't download as a zip file. It needs to be unzipped. So if it is a zip file, you will need to unzip it before you start the import process. Looks like it downloaded as just a regular folder. So what we can do to add files to RockSim, another way besides the way I showed you before, is to go File, Import, Database Files, and you can import motor files this way too if you load them from somewhere like Thrust Curve, or if you make your own motor, say you do experimental rocketry, or even if Aerotech or Cicerone comes out with a new motor and it's not in the database, you can add it this way too if you download it directly. So yeah, we'll go File, Import, Database Files, and the merge from path, in this case, we'll want to go to where we downloaded the file. So this is downloads, and that file, oops, was called the BTRS data. So we'll open that, click open, so that we're pulling the new tube files from here. And then this checkbox says only import new materials. So like in this case, it's a blue tube's already in the database, then it won't import them again. But if say there's one new tube, it'll import the one. I'm pretty sure that our database has a different naming convention, so it may not recognize that they're already in there. So we'll just uncheck that for that. And then you click OK, and it will import. And you can see here, because this was body tubes, it added 9 tubes, but nothing else really changed except tubes and couplers, because that's all Blue Tube is. So if you ever come across some parts files that you want to add to RockSim, it's really easy. Just get the parts databases, File, Import, Database Files. Same thing with motor files for that. So if you, another way to get motor files, if you're missing them too, you can go to thrustcurve.org and download them. I think I got rid of all my windows. And then that process would be exactly the same as what we did with the parts file. You can look up the motor. You can search there, find the motor you need, make sure you get the right manufacturer, and when you click through and come down, the RockSim file, download there, and click that, and then it'll actually download from this page. They just updated this website, so I always forget how many clicks it is. Okay, so I got my motor file there, so I can very easily in RockSim go File, Import. In this case, it'll be engine files, and then go back to my downloaded motor file, click Open. We've had a number of schools ask these questions, so I'm just kind of covering the basics. So we imported it, and then you have to move it from the left to the right to actually activate it in RockSim. So when it's on the left-hand side, it's loaded into RockSim, but it's not activated, so you won't see it in your motor file list until you move it over. So once I've moved it over and click OK, now when I go to load an engine in my rocket, it will be in the database here. The other way to get motor files, if you're missing them, like individual ones, this would be a pain to do, if you're missing all of them, is you can actually go File, Reload Engine Data, and click the tab for Download Engine Data, and search from here. And so I usually just use the common name. It's the easiest way, unless you know the exact name. And sometimes people put them in differently. So like Cicerone motors start with like 120 G80 dash things, and if you don't have that memorized, it's hard to look up. But if you're just looking up, let's do an F120, start search, and then it found one motor. But you can see if I would have looked it up under the actual name, it said 56 F120. I never would have found it that way. So the common name is just the easiest. Then we'll just download selected data. It's going to want to save it, so just click save. And then when you come back here, same deal. If it's on the left-hand side, you need to move it to the right to actually activate it. So now that motor is in there. And that's why you wouldn't want to do this if you're missing all your motor files, because you would literally have to do every single motor individually, and that, or kind of as a group, and that would be kind of a pain. The better option is to use our website and just download the files directly from there. So looks like our video, our pre-recorded video from Tim is not going to be available today. Just lots of computer problems this week for some reason. So let's see, does anybody have any other questions about RockSim? I'm trying to think of some other ones that have come up recently in terms of, Tim had the list and I didn't get it from him because he had the pre-recorded video, so I don't have the list in front of me about what questions there were. Let's see. I'll show you a little tip that's in the video that Tim did, but we'll just kind of sneak it in. So one of the issues that's coming up when people go to print in RockSim is it seems like it's not printing. So I've got this rocket and say I want to print templates or something from it. I go to File, Print, and then this screen shows you all the different things you can print for this kit. So you can do rocket drawings, the side view, the top view, the base view, which those are pretty straightforward. The side view is here, would be a line drawing like that. And the base view would be like that, and then the top view, we don't have a top view from here, but would be, you know, pretty self-explanatory. Then you can do templates. So if you want to say laser cut your own centering rings or cut them out by hand or something, your fins, you design your own fins and you need a template to actually lay out, you can actually print this from RockSim. So you just check off the one you want to print there. If you select all of these, you're going to get like 10,000 pages printing. So be aware, unless you want all the information, you probably don't need all of these checked. And then the simulation summary down here is your simulation summary, like all simulations. So it's going to print all the data for all of these flights and details and graphs, which is why you're going to get a lot of pages. So usually, unless you want the simulation summary printed out, I usually just deselect those when I'm printing. Rocket drawings, if you want the side view, you can. The side view, just be aware the rocket drawings do not print to scale. They size to your paper. So the way to actually get a scale drawing, we have a video tutorial on the tutorials page on how to do that. Basically, you have to export or print like to PDF the view, and then put it in a drawing program like Inkscape or Paint or one of those that there's free ones out there, and then scale it from there. So unfortunately, it's not one click and done, but it can be done. And then if you don't want the rocket drawings, I just want to print my fin template, then you can just deselect and all that's there is this templates. But the kicker that's new in 10.1 is this checkbox here. RockSim defaults to print PDF. So when you go to print, it looks like it's going to a printer, but then it shows up nowhere. And it's probably because this box is checked. So if you want to print it to a PDF, that's great. It's the default, or you can turn it on and off here. But the if you want to print to a printer, you have to turn that off, and that is selected for 10.1 build 173, which is what we're on right now, which everybody should be upgrading to. That may change in the future, so just be aware that that's for this specific build. And that option will always be there. It's just a matter of whether it's default checked or not. But that's throwing a bunch of people because it's new, and it looks like the printing doesn't work. It does, it just doesn't do what you thought it did or what it did at 9 or 10.0. So yeah, so that's the little trip up that's happening right now. And then you click OK and see it looks like it's printing, even though I was printing to PDF. It's actually just, it's not printing to my printer. See, it's printing to applications. So that's where it went as a PDF. So be aware that's a little kind of weird-ish bug type thing. The setting is not a bug, but the way it pops up a printer it's not going to is, but it'll always tell you where it's saving to. So if you pay attention, you'll know where your file went. And if you want to print to a printer, you just deselect that box for that. So yeah, I don't know that I have any other questions to answer. They're all answered as much as I could, unless there's a delay maybe. Derek is here helping me. He's the trusty assistant, and so do you have a question? Do you see another question, Derek? I'm sorry.
Says, is there a glossary of the results icons is payable in each?
Okay. Is there a glossary of the icons here? I'm not sure there is actually right now, because there was in the documentation that came with 9, and long story short, the PDF that's like the help menu or the help documentation for 9 used a kind of obscure software to self-generate. And in 10, that software, I mean, now that was 10 years ago, and it doesn't exist anymore. So we have yet to figure out exactly how to generate a new documentation without handwriting it. And if you've ever written procedure manuals and things, you know how hard that is. So right now, there's not a PDF of that that I'm aware of. There might be somewhere. What I will do is I will find out if that is the case, and we will link it to, I don't know if we can link it on the Facebook Live. We'll do it on our website on the Facebook Live page for sure. And if there's not, maybe I can whip, or Tim or Matt, our programmer, can whip something up so we can get a quick glossary on them. In terms of, I assume you're mostly talking about the results icons. So I can tell you a quick on these. So if you see the little parachute, the parachute means the parachute popped out successfully. The little arrow tells you kind of on what side of the of Apogee it popped out at. So like this one has the down arrow, and if we go in to the display details, so flight details. So the parachute deployed at 5.88 seconds, but the let's see here. I'm looking for the Apogee time. Oh, time to Apogee there was 4.056. So it deployed slightly after Apogee. So basically on the way down. It deployed. So if you think of it this way, the arrow is pointing down because the rocket was going down. So your parachute deployed slightly after Apogee. In this case, it was about a second later. So the rocket's starting to pick up speed again, which, you know, if it gets to a certain point, can be dangerous because your parachute could rip off. But 1 second is usually kind of the wiggle room area that works okay for that. Let's see if we have any other. Let's choose a motor here. Oops, let's clear all. So let's choose an engine and put in a really short delay, like 1 second, just to show what that looks like. Oops, I typed in an 8. So in this case, this is another one, this rocket crashed. This little, like you can see the rocket's sort of bent in an L shape and there's a little X. This rocket crashed, and that's because it was, I assume, it was already on the ground when the parachute popped out. So that little icon tells you that. And you can see, if you want to, you can go to the 2D flight profile and see the visuals of this too. So if you run the simulation, We're waiting for that parachute to pop out, waiting for that parachute to pop out, and you can see it hit the ground. I'll pause this so we can do it. It hit the ground at 7.88 seconds, but our delay was set to 8 seconds, so that's why it crashed, is the parachute came out too late. If I change this to 1 second and we launch it again, you will see that in this case, we've got the little parachute icon with the arrow pointing up because the parachute popped out while the rocket was still going up in the air. And since our apogee was probably about that 4 seconds, like it showed on the first one, it popped out 3 seconds early, which again, and you can see when you look at the data, the speed at which your parachute popped out. So like when it popped out after 1 second of a delay, it was going 50 miles per hour. And 50 is about the is about the breaking point for a lot of parachutes, where it's just going to rip that parachute either directly or zipper your rocket or something, because it's going so fast. Like throwing your hand out the car going 50 miles per hour. I mean, think about how much force is on that. That's what your parachute's going through there. Then another one, another icon that shows up. Let me pick a bigger rocket that, pick a really, actually let's go here. Really heavy rocket. Oh, it's in my version 9, so that's okay. So this is a 4-inch diameter rocket. It's like 4 feet long. And I'm gonna throw a ~A into it. So this sucker, you know, is supposed to launch little tiny rockets, and we're putting it in a big rocket. And then we're gonna go ahead and launch this. So as expected, your little tiny motor is not gonna be able to launch your giant rocket. And so what you get is this little icon. This is a rocket with an X next to it, basically saying we couldn't get off the ground. It's not working, something's happening. And in this case, it's just because you put a tiny little motor in a big giant rocket. And so that one, that's what that means. And usually you can check and see a couple reasons why that might happen. Or if you get the other thing, if you get a launch that only goes like, say 30 feet, you put a motor that's the appropriate size in it, and then it goes 30 feet. Things to look for are check your launch angle when you're putting your motor in. Under starting state, your launch guide length, you've got the length there, but also the angle. Like this is angled 4 degrees into the wind. There are some times where people get really confused because their rocket doesn't launch at all. Everything looks good, or it only goes like 30 feet and they put an M motor in it or something big. And what it is their launch angle is 90 degrees. So the rocket's launching, you know, horizontally. And so it's basically going, it's launching across the ground. And so obviously your rocket's not going anywhere if you're launching it this way. You're not going to get any altitude. You might get a little bit if it's a little up, but so you may see that there. So check your launch angle. Obviously check your weight versus your motor. Sometimes it might be as simple as one of your parts is really heavy. You don't realize you grabbed a fiberglass version of a part instead of a paper tube or something. So those are things to look out for if you get those. There is another icon that will show up, and I don't have a quick and easy way of generating it that I can think of, but it looks kind of like the rocket, except it has no nose cone on it. So it's just like a rectangle, and it's kind of all gray. And then usually with that, you'll also get NaN showing up in your columns. NaN stands for not a number. We see that a lot, especially with older designs, and the common cause of that is you have a material, one of your parts is made out of material like custom, that when you go into the parts database, you go in here, and material, instead of saying polystyrene or balsa or whatever, it literally just says custom. You can also have problems with if you have a material in here that's not actually in the database. That happens if like you get a kit file from somebody who added a material to the database, and say you're making something out of a really odd wood that's not, you know, carve a nose cone out of cherry or something. And you make that, and then you send the file to your friend who doesn't have cherry as a material in their database. So basically, usually it's something in your parts file that will make it go NaN. Essentially what it is one of your ingredients in your rocket has a material that RockSim doesn't know what it is, so it can't calculate the density, which means it can't calculate your center of gravity, which means it can't launch. So if you ever get the NaN message there, the usual culprit is one of your parts. A lot of times it's the fins. Go check the materials and make sure it's not custom. And if you have some sort of weird material, maybe check and make sure the other way to check is to look at your weight, so your mass of your item. If it says 0, there's probably a problem there. It's made out of a strange material. If you need to add a material to your database, that's actually really easy. So say you made a rocket out of some scrap you found, a junkyard in your house, whatever, and it's just made out of material you can't simulate at all. It's totally different. To do that, you go to the rocket menu and then edit database materials. And this is a list of the densities of all the materials in RockSim. So you've got plywood, you've got nylon. This is every material that's used for all the different ones. So to add one, you just click Add New at the bottom. Sorry, it's scrolling very slowly. And it's over here now. So you can edit these or delete them if you're never going to use something, or you can click Add New and type in, test material. You're going to put the density in this column, so you need to tell it what units you're using for the density, and there's a bunch of different options. Fixed dimension is just basically kind of copy what's up here. Most of these are because it'll calculate based on the size of your item. You'll always want to check the rocketry use button to kind of turn it on, and then you'll check the parts that it goes to. That's moving very weird. So like if it's a nose cone part, do that. That way it'll show up in your materials list when you're making a new item. If you don't check it, it won't show up in your list and you can't use it as a material. So it's really easy to go in and do that. And then just click OK, and you've added your new material to the database. There. I think we have another question here. It's okay. So this question was submitted by an employee. So scaling an existing RockSim file. So taking like a weird size and making it a regular tube size. So scaling in RockSim is easy to a point. All you have to do is go under the rocket menu and click Scale by Scale Factor. And then this is the tricky part, is you need to figure out what your scale is. So if you're going, from 2" to 4", that's a scale factor of 2. But if you're going from 1.7825 to 2, you have to do the math to figure out your scale factor, which you can just do with a calculator. If you're going up, then it's going to be, so you're going from 2 to 1.795. So it's a scale factor of 1.11. In this case, we'll just do 2 because it's a little easier to see. So we're going to do scale factor of 2. So now you'll see the diameter went from 4" to 2 inches. 4" to 8 inches. So scaled up by 2. So usually your external parts, this is external parts that it's going to easily scale. So your nose cone will now have a diameter of 8 inches, but you have to realize that all the factors duplicate by 2. So that may be fine, but if you're so we've doubled this up, so now we're looking for an 8-inch nose cone. We go to the internet, we look up an 8-inch nose cone, and we can find one, but it's not 19 inches, it's 12 inches, because that's just what's available. So then you'll have to kind of tweak it from there. And then the other things, like we scaled the external tube by 2, well, now your motor mount tube also went up by 2, but 2 times, say, a 38mm tube is an odd size. So once you have it scaled, your external body tube. So I want this to be, instead of being a 29mm rocket, I want it to be a 3-inch rocket. you can scale your outside tube, and then from there you have to tweak kind of everything else, but your overall, your general scale should be the same. So stuff like your fins should be hopefully okay because the ratio should be the same. But when you get to the internal components, like the motor mount tube, you're usually going to have to change something because it just doesn't scale up evenly. So no matter what, you're kind of stuck with some oddball sizes a lot of times. But it's a good starting point saying, okay, I want to upscale this Aspire kit and make it a 3-inch rocket. Let's do the scale in RockSim, and then from there we can look at what parts are available for sale on the websites, and then go from there. So and then tweak them, and you can edit everything, and then just remember to save once you've changed your file, so that you might want to save as if you've changed it so that you don't override the 4-inch version. So you could do a save as, and then this is a Seawolf 8-inch like custom, so that way I don't lose my original file if I ever want to fly that. So yes, hopefully that answered Catherine's question there. So I think that's all the questions. You don't see any more questions in the chat? Okay, my chat's set up weird, so I didn't do that. So I think that's it for today. Thanks for bearing with me. This is my first time doing any of these live things and learning some new software and winging it a little bit. We'll just put our website up there, and I thank you for stopping by with us today. Tim should be back next week. I will we'll take these questions that you asked today. I will run them by Tim, and he will follow up definitely on that 2-stage question from Sydney, and then we'll check a couple of the other ones, just make sure I understood and answered them correctly, and if not, then Tim will take care of it. I'll try and see if I can figure out a way to find a key for the images, so that we can post that, and we'll post that on the Facebook Live page, even if it's just kind of a quick and dirty cheat sheet, but something for you, so that we have that up there, because other people are asking the same questions you guys are, and we appreciate you submitting them. So if there's any other questions during the week, submit them on our contact form on our website. I've got our website here. So just go to apogeerockets.com, click on the contact form, shoot us an email saying, I have a question for Facebook Live next week. Can you go over how to do X, Y, or Z? We really appreciate it, because if we don't have questions from customers, then we have to kind of make it up as we go, as you've seen today. So yeah, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.
Our first question comes from Rick Desfosses, and he writes, how do you create fins that don't come off the rocket perpendicular to the tube? So here we have the Pegasus rocket, and this is from Auto Rockets. You can see these top fins here. If you look at that close, they are not coming off perpendicular to the tube, because they would come off at an angle like that. He wonders if that can be done in RockSim. Another example of that is the Lex Jet Rocket. So here we have the Lex Jet, and if you look at these wings here, they are coming off the side of the tube and then coming out. So they're not perpendicular to the tube, they're offset from the tube. So what I'm going to show you applies to both types of fins. So this is the way that you would do it. You would do it with thing called a pod. So let me go here to my computer, and what we're going to do is download the Pegasus rocket, and we're going to open it in RockSim. So this will also show you how to download a file and open it up. So here I am on RockSim, or on the Apogee website, and you just type in the name of the kits that you look to find. So I'm looking for the Pegasus. Pegasus. Okay, so you just start typing, and it auto anticipates what you're typing. So I'll just click on the Pegasus here, and you open it up, and there's the rocket that we want. And what we're looking for is the RockSim file. So I'm going to open up that RockSim file. You just click on the tab. I don't know if you saw what I did there. Let me go back up here again. So to find the RockSim files really quick, there's a button bar right here, this gray bar right below the picture and the price of the rocket. You'll see RockSim file, and if you click on that, it'll jump down to the bottom of the page where the RockSim file is stored. So here's our Pegasus, and we're going to download that file. So you can either download it from the text link, or you can click on the picture, and it's going to ask you, well, it's already automatically downloaded. I don't know if you saw that. It went to the download, and now it's in my downloads folder. So if I open my downloads folder, and you have to remember where your stuff is being downloaded to. If you don't know where, try to put it on your desktop so that it's easy to find. Okay, so here is the file called Pegasus, and I'm going to open that in RockSim. So I know it's on my downloads folder. I'm going to just drag it to my desktop so that I know where it is. So now it's on the desktop, and if I go to the desktop folder, it's right here at the bottom, Pegasus. Okay, so now I'm going to go into RockSim, and here's RockSim, and I'm going to go File, Open, and I'm going to navigate to my desktop, which is right here, and then look for Pegasus. So there's Pegasus, and click Open. And this is the file that you'll find on our website. It's in 3D right now, and if we drag it around and we zoom in here, you can see that these are coming off the tube perpendicular, not straight up like we'd want them to. So we're going to modify this design to make it just like the real one that we've got right here. So we want it to come off straight. All right, so for that, we need to do it as a pod, as I said. So we're going to come here to Design Components tab, click on that, and we're going to come down here and find our fins. So we've got a foot, and I'm not sure which is the foot. I guess this is the foot right down there. That would be a foot. We got a fin set 3, the Razorback, which I think is this Razorback right here, and then 2 wings, and I think these are the wings that we're going to modify. So first I want to open it and just confirm it. So that is the wing, and you can see the shape there. Now the version that I'm using is not the version that you have currently. You have RockSim version 10.1, which is the latest on our website. We are working on RockSim 10.2, and it's really close to being ready to release. We're calling it 10.2 instead of 10.1.1 because it has new features. Whenever we just do a bug fix, then it would be the last digit. So if there's 3 digits, it would be the last one. So it would be 10.1.1, which means it's a bug fix to version 10.1. We're going past that to 10.2, which means it's a new version that has new features in it. And one of these new features is this screen right here, which we decided to fix because there was a lot of people that didn't like the custom fin editor screen. Because the main image on the rocket on 10.1 was squished. So we made that larger so you could actually see it, and you can actually now drag it larger or smaller like you did before. You can also drag this graph here. You can see I can make this larger or smaller as well. All right, so this is the fin that we need. So what I want to do is to make sure that this fin is in my database, because I'm going to delete the fin from the rocket and then add it back. And I don't want to do all those points again because that's a lot of points there. So I'm going to save it to my database. To do that, go here to the Database tab, click on that, and now we're going to add this to the database, and we need to fill out these forms here. So the manufacturer of this is Oddle Rockets, ODDL, and I don't know what his part number is, but I'll just give it a description. I'll call this the Pegasus wing fin. And then I'm going to save it to the database, and it's going to copy this stuff right up here, and it's going to copy it right down here. And this is the final chance you get for putting in your database. So I'm going to say yes, okay. And now it's in the database. And if I actually go to the database, so if I go to choose from database, I should see it in there. And there it is, the Otto Pegasus wing. So now I know it's in there, so everything is okay. So I'm just going to cancel out of this screen and cancel out of here. It's asking me if I want to save my changes. I didn't really make any, so I'm going to say no. And then I'm going to delete this from the rocket. So I'm going to make sure it's highlighted and then come over here to delete, or I can also use my mouse. I can right click and say delete. And it's going to ask me, really delete? And I say yes, delete it. Okay, and so you can see that one fin just went away. Now, before I take away the other one, I want to see where it's exactly positioned. I just want to take a quick look. So I'm going to open that back up. Again, it opens up this screen because it's a custom fin. And I want to see the radial position. And it's at 30 degrees. So if I look at the back of the rocket, which is this icon right here, you can see that it's 30 degrees off of vertical. Okay, and that's what I was looking for. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to delete this one as well. So now they're both gone. Okay, now is the part about adding them back. And I'm going to have to add both of them back one at a time. So first, we got to know where we're attaching this new fin. Or, well, let me tell you the process. The process is going to be, we're going to add a pod to the tube, and then we're going to add a fin to the pod. Now a pod is a placeholder, and it's a placeholder that allows us to attach parts to the outside of the rocket. Now other placeholders, you've seen them before, but you just didn't recognize them as a placeholder. So if you come up here to your screen and you see the word sustainer, that's a placeholder. That means I'm going to add parts to that as a group. And then if you had a booster 1 and a booster 2, those would also be placeholders for other parts. Another placeholder that you'd see in your rocket is a subassembly, where you're attaching parts to that, and it's just a group of parts that are kind of grouped together. But the one that we want to use is called a pod. So first we need to attach it to someplace in the rocket. And I am going to attach it to the body tube. So make sure the body tube is highlighted and then click on pod. Okay, so now we have the rocket, and we're looking at it at the aft view. So let me look at it at the side view. Okay, so right now, this is the other new feature that we've added to RockSim version 10.2, which you don't have yet, but it's coming really soon. And that's a visual indication of where pods are attached. We talked about this in previous editions of RockSim Live. As you see me using it, I was talking to myself and I said, hey, what we really need is a feature that shows you where the pods are attached. If you want to see that video, if you go to the Apogee website, I'll show you where our videos are for our RockSim Live, where we archive them. So if you go to How To and Guides and click on Software, and then over here on the right-hand column is one that's called RS Live Training, which stands for RockSim Live Training. So click on that, and this gives you our archive. So we're on episode number 9 right now. One of them we were talking about pods. Let me see if I can find it for you. How to make a cluster rocket. It's one of these. Where do we put it? Oh, here we go. Episode number 7. So if you click on that link right there on this page, it'll take you to our YouTube video for episode 7, where we talked about this specific feature of a need to add a visual indicator where the pod is. So our new visual indicator is this circle here. It's just with a cross right in the middle. It's kind of like the CG symbol, but the opposite sides aren't shaded in. And right now it's right next to the CG symbol, so it's kind of really weird. I'm zooming in. To zoom in, you use your mouse, and you use your right click on the mouse, and it brings up this menu, and then you can say zoom in, and you can see it zooms in. So this blue one right here is the new symbol of the pod, and you can see if I shift it around, I can move that location of that pod, because right now it's just a placeholder, and it's not a part, it's just a collection of parts. So we need something to tell us where it's attached and where the front of that pod is attached. So I'm going to call this, we're going to have two of them, so we're going to have a starboard and a port. Your starboard is your right side. We get this from nautical terms like aeronautical. Nautical starboard is the right side, port side is your left. So we're going to do the right side first. So we're going to call this the starboard wing pod. And this pod cannot be ejected during simulation, so I want to make sure that it's unchecked. And I'm going to say OK. So in the 3D you don't see it, but you do see it in the 2Ds. And right now I'm not seeing it. Okay. It's in there somewhere. Maybe you only see it on the pod one. Okay. So anyway, let's add our fin. So if you come over here, so first you got to highlight it like I've done, and now we can add fins. And this one fin was a custom fin, so I'm going to hit that, and it brings up the database of parts. And look, there's our fin. So we're going to click OK on that, and you can see it loaded it in there, and it loaded two of them actually. Let me zoom in here. So I'm kind of looking at the back of the rocket, and it's these two right here. Let me change the color of them so you can see the color better. And I want to make sure I copy that color right there to my custom colors. So I'm just going to throw it there and then make the color blue. Click OK. So now you can see them. Oh, and look, it actually added 3. And if you notice, it's kind of like they're attached to a tube and they're coming off perpendicular to that tube. We only need one fin here. So I'm going to actually go to my general tab, and I'm going to change my fin count to 1. And there it is, our one fin, and it's coming off radially, but now we want to start changing that position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the radial position tab, and I want to now see if I can change the radial angle. You see that? I can change that right here. So I'm kind of looking at it from the rear view. Let me see if I can get the rear views better. Okay, so let me zoom in. Remember how to zoom in. You right click and then you select zoom in, and it brings up this here. And we need this to go vertically off here. So I'm just going to rotate this around till it's straight up and down. Okay, and I'm going to make it 0 degrees. Just going to type it 0. Okay. And then I want to see from the side view where it's located. So right now it's kind of in the middle of the rocket. And to change its position, normally you would do that on the General tab, but you don't have a way to change it from this tab. So where you're going to change it is on the Pod tab, or on the Pod part. So we're going to now go back to the pod itself and adjust the position even further on that screen. So I'm going to click OK here. Now I'm going to go my pod, and I'm going to double click it to edit it. Okay, so now we're looking at it at the side again, and now we can see that that pod position, and you can see the fin is attached right to the front, or right there at the location of the pod, and here's the fin coming off here. Okay, so now I got this location tab here. You can see I can slide it here, and I'm going to change it from the base of the owning part, and now it goes in reverse, and I'm going to just slide it all the way to the back because I'm looking at the rocket. If I look at the rocket, the fins are right at flush with the back edge of the tube, so I can see that on my screen here. So now that puts the forward and aft location, and now we need to adjust the radial position. Okay, so now I'm going to look at it from the back of the rocket again. I can make this a little bit bigger, and I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. Okay, so my fin is right here, and I need it to be coming off right here. So I'm going to go to the radial position here, and it's going to, I want to uncheck these. See, right now I'm trying to grab that slider, and I can't do anything, but I can do the, actually the radial angle. And I'm going to set it, we had it set at 30 degrees before. So I'm going to hit Enter or Tab to accept that angle. So now it's at 30 degrees, but now it's coming off perpendicular again. But that's okay, because we can adjust that on the fin tab, or on the fin screen itself. Remember, this is kind of back and forth a little bit to try to get that position just the way we want it. So I'm going to click OK on this screen. And then I'm going to go back to my fin. So I'm going to click the down arrow here, and then just slide down here, and then select the fin, and I'm going to double click, or I can hit the edit button over here, and it will open it back up. Okay, now we're back to where we were before. I'm going to go back to that radial position tab, and now I'm going to change it back to 0. So I'm just going to go over here, highlight it, and type 0 on my keyboard, hit the tab key, and you can see it snapped right where we wanted it. All right, and then the question is, was 30 degrees actually good? And it could have been off a little bit further. Oops, stay in there. I'm moving my Pegasus rocket around, looking at it, making sure I got it right. But actually, I like this. So I'm looking at it from the side again. Now here's looking at it at the front. I can zoom in, zoom out. Okay, now I'm going to change the color back to what it was. So I'm going to go to Color tab, select my 3D color, and then I'm going to, since I saved that custom color over here, I'm just going to select it and click OK. So now we have that fin. I'm going to click OK here. I'm going to go back to the pod, double click on it. I'm going to look at it one more time. Do I like that position? Or maybe I want to adjust that radial angle even more. No, I liked it at 30 degrees. So I'm going back to 30 degrees, hit the tab, and click OK. All right, so now we have a starboard wing pod. Let's see if we can do this a little bit faster the second time. So this time I'm going to do a copy and paste and see if that works. And if it doesn't work, then we have to do it the long way. But if it does work, it will save us a lot of time. So to copy and paste, we'll select the item, right-click with your mouse, and it brings up this little menu here, and we're going to do a copy. And now we need to tell it where to paste it. We need to paste it back to this body tube up here. So I'm going to highlight that body tube and then hit paste again. And you can see it pasted it right down here, and it's identical. It's an identical copy. So there's actually two fins right here coming off the top of the rocket. So now we're going to edit this. We're going to edit the starboard wing pod. We're going to change the name of it for the first thing. We're going to call it the port side wing pod. Okay, and then we're going to go to that radial angle, and so we can adjust it to the 30 degrees the other way. So it's going to be minus 30 degrees over here. And hit tab. And you can see that it's off to the side there a little bit, but we know how to fix that, right? So we're going to click OK here. I'm going to go to my port side wing. And in fact, I'm going to change the name of this one too. I'm going to call it the port side fin. Port side wing fin. Because it's not a set anymore. A set means more than one. Okay, so we got the name changed. Now we're going to go to the radial position tab. Click on that. See, it's minus 60 degrees. Let's try changing it here. Yeah, we're going to make it 0 degrees. You can see just it's going to be 0 degrees. So hit tab, and now we have that fin up and down. The name has been changed. We're going to click OK. I'm going to go here to 3D view. And if you want to make this bigger, you can double click here. Right there. Detach it. Oh, it put it at the top. I didn't want it at the top. Detach it and make it bigger. Okay, so you can see now those wings are up and down. Now doing the Lex Jet will be almost identical to what we did here. The only thing that's changed is the radial angles and the shape. And you're going to do them, you're going to have two different ones. You're going to have a starboard and a port side again. And here's our starboard, and here's our port side. So it's going to be an identical process. So that's how you would do it. Okay, so now one of the questions that people had was, once you've detached this view window from the screen, how do you get it back down to the bottom of the screen? Well, to do that, you go up to the View menu, and you go down here to Restore Window Default, and then it will pop it right back to the bottom of the screen. In case you were wondering, that's how you do it. So that answers the question of how do you make fins that are not coming off perpendicular from the tube. All right, so that was cool. We're going to save this design. Right now it's on my desktop. I just saved it. And now we'll answer the next question. This one comes from James Posgate, and he says, I can't print in version 10.1. Okay, James, we've tested printing and it works. But there's a little checkbox that you have to check. So let's go here to print. So here's the print menu. So that brings up this menu right here to print. And the trick is you have to go to additional settings. Now this is, most people wouldn't even think about this. But on additional settings, right now it's checked. There's a box that says print to a PDF format. And if it's checked, and you try to print, instead of going off to your printer and then it comes out on paper, it's going to go off into your computer as a PDF file. And then you could open that PDF file and print it from there, which works, and I actually like that feature. But if you want it to come right to your printer first, you have to uncheck this little box that says print to PDF format. Okay, and then if you go to print selections, now you can tell it what to print. Now I don't want to print a parts list. I don't want to print a simulation summary. Most of the time you want to be printing like templates. Like on this Pegasus, you know, printing out that fin, that would be something you definitely would like to print. So I'm going to uncheck rocket drawings, but I still have templates checked. And here's the port side wing. Let me expand this so we can see the name. This is why it's so important to change names, because if everything is labeled fin set, fin, what are you printing? So this is the only way we can tell what we're actually printing. So if I print out the port side wing fin and click check there, now I'm actually going to go to print it to a PDF so I can show you. So I'm going to click print to PDF. Okay. I'm going back to print selections. Okay, that's the only thing that I should be printing. I'm going to click OK. And it's, even though it looks like it's going to a printer, it actually isn't. It's going to a file. So we're just going to say print. And this is how you can tell where it stores it. So it says printing to, and this is the location, into my application folder, into my RockSim 10.1, build 175, and PDF prints. So I'm just going to leave that there. I'm going to go to my application folder, and I want to be able to see that so I can actually look at the file path to be able to find it. So it's in my applications folder, and then I go into RockSim 10.1 build 175, which is that folder right there. Open that up, and then there's a folder called PDF prints, and here's my PDF prints. I'm going to open that. I probably didn't print it until I hit OK. And look, there it did. It showed up right there. So if I open this, there's the fin that was drawn using the custom fin editor in RockSim, and that's a full 100% scale fin. So that is how you, now from here I can also print it, so I can just select print, select my laser printer, and then hit print, and it's going to my laser printer out there, and I'm here in this room, so I won't even see it for a little bit. They're gonna come walking in. Tim, did you print out a fin? And I say, yeah, I did. Okay, so that's printing out a fin. So that answers James' question. Make sure when you go to the print dialog is to uncheck that checkbox that says print to PDF format, because if you have it checked, it's going to send it to a PDF, which is actually pretty cool, but you might want it on a piece of paper. All right, so that answers all the questions that I had that were written down today. I'm going to play a little bit here. I thought maybe it would be cool to open up this Pegasus in RockSim Pro and show you what it looks like in the flight visualizer. So I'm going to cancel out of here. I'm going to make sure that it's saved by clicking on the Save button. I'm going to open up RockSim Pro. Okay, here's my RockSim Pro. Because this is so cool. You know, I'm kind of teasing you, and I apologize for that because you don't have RockSim Pro yet, but it's coming so soon. So I'm going to open up this, and I remember saving it to my desktop. So I'm going to my desktop, find Pegasus, click Open. It opens it up. Let's see it in 3D. Make sure we got the right version with the fins coming off perpendicular, which is good. So now we're going to go and launch it. So we're going to go prepare for launch. Let's put a rocket engine in there. I'm going to choose, I'm showing all engines. I only want to show the ones that match the motor mount diameter. So I'm going to select that so I don't see all of them. I'll just choose an S to C6. Let's go with a 5-second delay. The engine's going to hang out the back a half of an inch. So I'm going to put 0.5 and click OK. And you can see here on the middle of the screen here, it loaded that motor right there. Now I'm going to go to flight events, and I'm going to say deploy at maximum ejection delay. Simulation controls. Okay, the starting state, we're going to have a 36-inch launch rod. Launch guide from vertical. Let's angle it maybe 10 degrees. Our azimuth. Azimuth is a compass direction. North would be 0. So imagine this is a compass rose. So north is straight up on your compass. If I go this way, I'm over to the west. So let's launch it kind of like northwest. And under launch conditions, I'm not sure where this is located. So let's choose a launch site. Let's go the Northern Virginia Association of Rocketry launch site, and this is where the TARC launches are held every spring, so that's appropriate. And let's check our wind. Right now we have a wind coming out of the west. So this is a compass direction again, so 270 means coming from the west, and it's 8 miles an hour. So let's see what that looks like when we run a flight profile. So here we're launching. Oh, I know what it's doing. It's doing multiple launches. It's doing 8 of 10 launches. We only wanted 1. I had uncertainties turned on there, but we don't really need an uncertainty. So here's the rocket sitting on the launch pad, and we got a small view of the same rocket right there. So let me hide this right here so you're not confused. Okay, so there's the rocket, and I'm going to use my mouse to scroll out to kind of get a lay of the land, where this rocket is located. So here we are in Virginia. Here's a compass down here. The black triangle points to the north. So this coming off this direction is the north, and if we want to swing that around, I'll just grab it and swing it around so it's going north. Okay, so my rocket is right there in the middle, and you probably can't see that, so I'll zoom in a little bit again. And let's click the launch button and see what happens. So the rocket takes off, and this is a funky rocket with fins in weird locations. So I don't know if you saw it there when it came off the launch rod. It came off a little squirrely. So now it's drifting back down, and it's going to be down to the ground here in just less than 10 seconds. You can see it's going to land, and as soon as it gets to the ground, I'm going to hit pause so that it doesn't restart. Okay, so then it lands way out here. You can see over here, distance from the launch point was 341 feet. And I'm going to zoom out again so we can get a little better lay of the land. And you can see this red line right here is the ground path. The green line is the trajectory. And then these vertical lines, it just kind of connects the ground path with the vertical trajectory. So it kind of makes it kind of a 3D image. And I'm just rotating it around, just kind of seeing what's going on. If you see right when it came off the launch pad, let me move that to the center and then kind of zoom in. Okay, remember the red is our ground path. So the wind was coming straight out of the west, so the wind was coming from this direction across. And as the rocket came off, it kind of got pushed by the wind. And then it kind of straightened out better and then take off pretty straight. I'm going to look at that a little bit closer. Okay, and now I'm going to actually, let's dig into this a little bit further. So I'm going to take my slider bar here for my time. I'm going to go back to the beginning of the flight. Okay, so we got this right here, smoke coming out of the rocket. Let me zoom around right here. And if the smoke is obscuring the rocket, you can turn the smoke off. So you go up here to Preferences and Flame and Smoke, and I'm going to turn off my smoke and click OK. And now if we zoom in, we have fire coming out of the rocket, but not the flame. And I'm going to step through this a little bit. You can see. Let me see, it's a little bit jumpy there. The reason it's jumpy is because the view that I've got selected right here is always keep the rocket in the very, very center of the screen. And that can be a little bit jumpy, as you saw. So there's a button up here. I can change my view, and it changes my camera options. So I'm going to click on it, and I have 4 different camera orientations. The one that we're currently in right now is keep the rocket centered in the view. The next one is, okay, keep the rockets, or keep the camera stationary. And so the rocket will go out of the center of the screen. 2 of the other ones here are, this one right here is a camera view. So looking down off the rocket like you were a camera attached to the side of the rocket. And then this one over here, this last one is a ground observer view. So say you were stationary on the ground with your launch controller and you push the button and the rocket takes off. What does it look like from your perspective standing there on the ground? So as you can see, there's a lot of cool things that are going on right here. We can look at the rocket in so many different ways. So right now the rocket is coming off, and I want to look at it a little bit. Oop, I didn't change the view. So I got to change that view, and the camera reorients itself, and now I got to reorient the camera. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to rotate around. So remember, north is going this way this time, so it's pointing this way. The wind is coming from the west, so you see this red line here? You can see that the wind is actually pushing the rocket to the west, as it's taking off. And let me back up the trajectory a little bit. So as it's climbing off the rod, as soon as it leaves the rod, it's being pushed, which is so cool. You can see the ground trajectory. Now here, the rocket, something's going on. It's trying to straighten itself out, which is really cool. I'm going to zoom out a little bit and pan down a little bit so we can get a different perspective on it. So now these vertical lines, they're coming off the rocket at 1 second intervals. So 1 second after the rocket left the pad, it would be at this point. You can see we're already at 1.4 seconds down here on the bottom. So we're getting a lot of information here just by looking at a trajectory in the flight visualizer. You can see it's also starting to arc over, and it's arcing over. So if north is straight up, it's arcing over to the northwest, which is, we angled it kind of northwest, so that's we kind of anticipate that going in that direction. Okay, and the rocket takes off, and this red dot right here, that's the apogee point in the flight. And let me back it up just a little bit. Let me zoom in. If you ever get lost, you know, if you're like crazy like this, when you're in this viewport right here, you get another button up above it that says to center the camera on the rocket. So I'm going to click on that, and you can see it just moved the rocket dead center in the middle of the screen. And if I zoom in and then click that button again, it will recenter. You can see at this point, I want to zoom in really close, because now at this point the parachute is out of the rocket. And we want to find out where did the parachute pop out. So right here, between 6.86 seconds and 6.81 is when the parachute opened. And at that point, the rocket's trajectory put on its brakes. It stopped going towards the northwest, and now it's being pushed by the wind. And then from this point out, it will be pushed directly to the east by the wind. So if we look at it from the top view, looking straight down from bird's eye view, and you can get that view by clicking the 2D button over here in the bottom corner. Now we're looking straight down on the rocket, and there it is. So north is straight up, and you can see it's drifting straight east as it's coming down. And then, as we discovered before, it's going to be about 341 feet away when it touches down. All right, so that is RockSim Pro with the launch visualizer. The launch visualizer is this screen right here, which shows you the trajectory of the rocket. That right now is going to be only in RockSim Pro, and we're going to be releasing that soon, so I'm kind of giving you a little teaser. I apologize that it's not available yet, and when you ask us, when's it going to be available, Tim? The answer is going to be soon. Because there's always last minute things that get in the way of getting this out the door. But the visualizer, as you see, is working fine. We are putting the finishing touches on everything else in the software. RockSim Pro is a little bit different from RockSim, so there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, but using the flight visualizer is going to be awesome. And then our plan is to take the flight visualizer and pull it out of the desktop and make it a cloud-based application so it runs inside of a browser. So you don't even need RockSim or RockSim Pro to run these visualizations. You can do it right from your web browser. The only issue there is you can only do trajectories. You can't design rockets. So the thing that we did with the Pegasus and moving the fins around, you can't do that in the cloud version. You would still need RockSim or RockSim Pro to be able to design, but doing the simulation part, we're going to be able to allow you to do that on a web browser. That's our plan. The plan is already in the works, and it's coming hopefully late fall of 2021. So that is the launch visualizer. We've showed you in this episode how to change your fin locations and how to print. So this video, as we said before, is actually pre-recorded because I was out of the office today when I normally do RockSim lives. But hopefully next week I will be back. I should be back. This is only a one-day trip that I'm taking. So I should be back next time. We do these every Friday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time, which is 12 noon on the East Coast. And if you miss the episode live, we really like you to come live, because then we can answer your questions, because this is for you. The smart people that actually show up for these things live can get their questions answered live by me, as you see me working on the screen. But we will also put these, as I showed you, we archive them on our website, and they're archived on YouTube, and they're archived on Facebook. So there's a number of places that you can watch them. So they're always available. So thank you again for watching. I hope you learned something new today. How to use RockSim, how to become a better modeler. You know, being able, with the flight visualizer like I was showing you, this is where we're working on flying skills. You know, we have design skills and flying skills. And the flying skills, I think, needs some work among the rocketry community. And you know, I'm working on myself too. I'm always learning, but seeing it ahead of time allows you to make adjustments. So if we didn't want the rocket to arc over to the northwest, what would we do? Well, we could angle it in a different direction. So that's where flying skills comes in, and that's kind of what we want to work on with the flight visualizer, give you that opportunity to enhance your skills. So I'm going long here. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you next week right here on the Rocketry Live show. Is it a show? No, it's a training session. My name again is Tim Van Milligan.